Well, hey everybody. My name is Jared Malott. I'm with my good friend Mateo Kaliz, and this is the Coltist, season 2, episode 8. How about that bye week? Uh, Colts and Pacers. So this is a Colts and Pacers podcast. Both have had long layoffs this week. Obviously, we could start talking about the Pacers, right? Colts are on a
Yeah,
bye.
so
Your
there's
Indiana
not much to
Pacers
say.
hadn't played since last Tuesday, right?
Yeah, so not much
Um,
going on.
no, not at all. Pacers uh, basically got annihilated in the first half of a basketball game. It was embarrassing. Came back
Yeah, it was not nice.
only lost by 12, if I recall. It was like 128, 116.
Yeah,
A loss is a loss for the record, because there's a lot of people that are like, is this endemic of the Pacers season? No,
nah,
no.
nah.
So you're gonna have an off night. You're gonna lose
It's
games
bound to
that
happen.
it's like a shock to you. Like, oh wow, we really got outplayed in the first half of that basketball game. But I'd rather speak on what went right for them, and what went right is that they got back into that basketball game. Right?
Yeah,
You didn't
yeah, they
win it.
sent
You
out
didn't
the.
win. A loss is a loss. But hey, we didn't lose by 50. So, and I know that's not much of a bright spot. Um,
Yeah, it
but the reason I
seems
wanted
like.
to talk about that first is because I'm kind of wondering if during the season that bye week or that layoff, right, where you don't play for about a week, is going to have a negative impact on what happens on Sunday, right?
Yeah,
And it ain't because I'm gambling on sports. As many of you know, I've started my coaching career. I'm now the associate head coach of a brand new high school football program here in Indianapolis. So I did get promoted and not fired. Hey, um, when I think about my program and what would happen to my team and their performance after a layoff, right?
yeah,
Obviously, I want to be able to say with my little experience that, hey, it would hurt anybody's potential when you just haven't gone full speed for a while.
yeah. For
Well,
a while, yeah,
one of the things that we noticed when you and I are kind of chatting before we started recording here, uh, uh, 4 defensive starters for Tampa are questionable to and expecting to return this week. I'm not saying all them guys play, but the same sort of for at least their back end, because it's like linebackers, DBs, and safeties. It's like, hey, uh, the Tampa's lost 5 of their last 6
yeah,
games. I mean, they've done a lot
yeah.
of
They
losing
not
in the
look
last month.
great. Yeah,
Um,
they've been defeated, but by some worse teams than us.
yeah,
So
their
yeah,
lone win in the last 6 weeks has been against the Titans. So with that in mind, that's why I wanted to start with the Pacers, right? Because I know
yeah,
a lot of people out there are very results oriented and are the kind of person to look at the first half score of the 13th game of the year and go, season's over. I'm not watching it anymore.
yeah. That's
Um,
that would be really, really
hey, and
stupid
there's
to.
absolutely people just like that that got embarrassed bad enough in the first half of a basketball game, never see him again. It's just true. Fortunately for the Pacers, like I said, they fought all the way back, only lost by 12. That is important that you made up, like you were down 50 and got all the way back into single digits at one point, right? And I get it.
Yeah,
A lot of people just have that expectation. Um, that at the professional level is about the only time you'll see a team hang on and hang in there and actually crawl back into that basketball game.
yeah,
Because like I said, I've started my coaching career, and I can promise you, when one team gets up big, it's over. And it's a mentality thing, and it's something that you've got to teach a group of people, is that down but not out mentality.
yeah,
Gonna keep trying to do the right things here and run and execute our game plan, as long as it's a smart game plan, right? And like you said, kind of before we were recording, that was the one game all season the Halliburton didn't play very
yeah,
well. um and when I was looking at it, I remember in the first half being like, the nobody's playing well. The only person that's pouring in points is McConnell. in the first half of that game. He was really only one. He had to get 11 points, and it was just like, man, when the 14th guy off the bench
Yeah, it's the one getting you
is the one
points.
getting you points, it's like, man,
Yeah, it's
you're a
never gonna be a
struggle.
good one.
And but one of the things that excites me about the Pacers, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about them first tonight, um, is because obviously it's the best start the Pacers have had in years, right? And I get
Yeah.
it. They were 7-3 going in and 7-4 and stinking going out, right? But Tyrese Halliburton's getting all kinds of press. He's on old man in the
Yeah.
three. Um, and like I said,
I'm not
it's
used to that. I'm not used to that for a Pacers player.
yeah, a
Like even
Pacers
when
player to be popular.
yeah,
Yeah,
even when Oladipo and Sabonis were like really good,
yeah.
they were not getting the same amount of press that Tyrese is getting right now. Like even Vinicius, who is a really like he's a top 10 soccer player at the moment,
Mhm.
top five, top 10 arguably. He's a Brazilian superstar. He tweeted about Tyrese Halliburton. Like, when does that ever happen before a soccer superstar tweeting about a Pacers player?
Yeah. And you
So
know
yeah,
you've got to be being really unselfish for people to see you like that, because you notice like a lot of his highlights are him passing, like making a great pass.
yeah,
It's not all
yeah.
him
He's not a score
flying
for
through the
yeah.
air with the greatest of ease, none of that. Maybe occasionally the hook hitch, a nifty little step back on somebody, but his release is too slow for it to be highlight material. It just eventually
Yeah,
somebody's
just
going to
yeah,
turn the wrong way on you, and you could just step back and shoot a 3-pointer. It ain't like he's got a fast release. But yeah, the Pacers are giving me life. The Colts. So we could talk about the Colts because the Pacers are just good. You know, like they're just good.
yeah.
They just
They had just one bad game
had one bad
right
game.
when we recorded episode. But I mean, we can talk about the games before that and how Tyrese looked like he was putting up 30, 15 without turnovers every single game. We beat the 76ers that were on an 8-game winning streak. Like
Yeah, they did.
he's playing lights out. Ben Mathurin is looking really well. And you can also look, at the bright side from last game. Rookie Jarrell Walker got some decent minutes and he looked really good. Like he looked further along than I was expecting. He was a great defensive presence. And you can even take positives away from such a bad game, perhaps like that one. You can go out and say, "Hey, we lost, but at least we got a chance to see, the rookie player, the I believe was the sixth overall pick.
Yeah,
We saw him playing. He was all right. He showed that he can contribute in some ways.
yeah,
So hey, like we said, before the season started, like this is not a year where we would expect the Pacers to be contenders right away. Like they should be competitive, but not contending.
yeah.
And
Should get
everything
to the
we're seeing
playoffs.
so far,
Might give
yeah,
somebody hell in a series. I don't know that they'll even win a series in the playoffs, but I think that they'll make it. Right now, I think they're like the 3 or 4 seed in
yeah,
the
yeah,
Eastern Conference. Um, and again, it's something that you gotta, the what I wanted to point out though is a lot of times coaches tend to leave their starters out there to bleed to
yeah,
death, or they'll um, play their bench as starters. Um, the Pacers played like 14 or 15 guys in that game, and I think that it kind of showed a mentality that like even though we're losing, like we're doing that as a team too, um,
yeah,
and not just gonna pin it on the starters or screw the starters, play the backups, and talk about it like I haven't seen this happen, right? Where a coach gets mad because his team's getting beat, and then he just sticks the starters in there and lets them rot, right? Or they'll put their bench in and don't play their starters anymore, right? Like they're being punished in some form. But to see a team kind of stick to their rotation, play everybody out, and like I said, at this professional level, at this NBA level, I love the quote by Wemby, by the way. People asked him what he thought about playing in the NBA, and he said the NBA is for real. Like these
yeah,
guys are playing as hard as they can, and can't say that about playing back in Europe. So the Pacers did have had a pretty impressive slew of wins here, including putting 150 points on the Spurs. Speaking of Wemby, right? And then beat the Jazz and Bucks in back-to-back games, and then like you said, they also have a win over the 76ers, who at the time were on an 8-game win streak. So the Jazz and the Bucks are like finals contenders. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
those are the people that I
yeah,
expect to be there at the finals for the conference, for each the what Eastern and Western Conference. Um, and for the Pacers to get early season wins over them with a deep bench, it tells me that the Pacers can still win basketball games when someone
yeah,
gets
definitely.
injured. And that gives you a lot of hope, because a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but Halliburton's going to get dinged up, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's bound. Yeah,
you're going to have to learn to win basketball games when he's either
without him. Yeah,
not playing well or just not there at all. Because last year they were real bad when he didn't play.
yeah, yeah. We
So
were
that's the whole
terrible. Yeah,
reason I
it's
brought
safe to
that
say
up,
that.
because it was like, last year they were real bad when Hallie didn't play. And this year, it's like you said before we started recording, 14 games into the season, like 13 of them things, Halliburton's playing like all world, right? And then one night comes out, has kind of a bad game. And obviously,
Yeah,
uh the the Pacers play tomorrow night. They play at Atlanta. Um so yeah, like I said, it didn't shake me any. Like I said,
yeah, nah,
it would
not
have
at all.
bothered me. It would have bothered me if the Pacers lost by 50. Okay, that would have bothered me. But to see them down early and say, you know what, we're gonna fight our way back into this basketball game and make it a game at the end, and it's like, hey, I got
Yeah,
the same amount of respect for that team. It's okay to lose. It's okay to lose. It's
yeah, it's
like
bound to
how
happen.
you
Yeah,
how you do that, right? Like, are you willing to
yeah.
fight and
You're
make
not
that
gonna
a game?
finish. You're not gonna finish 82-0. It's
No,
just not gonna
nope,
happen.
nope. Even back in the day, man, when the Bulls were really good, they still dropped a game where
Yeah,
everybody just kind of had a kind of a bad
an off
night.
night. Yeah, no one is there, to carry the load, and it's bound to happen. I mean, that's why I'm not worried. I mean, and even if we,
7-5, by
I
the
don't
way.
know. Yeah,
They're 7-5. But yeah, in terms of the Colts, obviously 5-5. On the outside in, looking at the playoffs, I think they're like ninth in the AFC. And again, like I
yeah,
said, get a host the Bucks at home. Colts have lost. Colts have won their last two games. So, like I said, the question, obviously, it's a flip of a coin, right? Is the team going to come out flat, lacking energy,
yeah, yeah.
and get beat by Baker Mayfield, or
Yeah, or are they gonna come out, looking prepared to face off against an opponent? It's probably worse than them.
yeah,
Like, are they gonna just put the foot in the gas and not let up a single minute and deliver a
that's
resounding win? I mean, it's like you said, flip a coin and see. Like, we have no idea what's what's gonna happen.
and I don't think Baker Mayfield's beating a sound effort out of the Colts. Like,
No.
if this were a couple years ago, this were Tom Brady, it'd be like, hey man, uh, Tampa can put up some points, so that's gonna be a struggle burger for us. But it's Baker Mayfield. It's a losing Buccaneers team. I will say this though, they're in a competitive division. The number one seed coming out of the NFC South is New Orleans at 5-5, is a
Yeah.
whole one game ahead of them. So I don't let records fool you, all that happy stuff. But the reality of this is, we're at the like halfway point of the season. Um, so far think the world of Shane Steichen. I think in a year like
Yeah. It's
this,
look. Yeah.
where number one quarterback goes, number one QB goes down, starting DT goes down, and other stuff. You got a guy gambling, getting kicked off the team. There are a lot of teams that would have packed it in. Would be looking very much like the Colts did last year, where they almost looked like they were trying to lose, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see that out of this team this year, and that's from your head coach, right? Because he's the new guy. And last year it seemed like you'd the Colts would play okay, someone would make a mistake, and then the game would just get away from them. And this year I feel like they're playing a lot more control. And I was just thinking about which quarterback would you rather have right now? Baker Mayfield or Gardner Minshew?
That's, I mean,
Isn't that
especially after
interesting?
yeah. I mean, especially after, the last game where we saw like the game against the Patriots
Yeah.
where, Minshew looked like he looked really, really bad. Like you saw that he was just jumping around in the pocket and, looked nervous, did not look ready at all.
Yeah.
It was funny, he was like I believe it was like the fourth ranked quarterback according to Pro Football Focus for the week. And like if you watch the game, you're like, hey, this guy, he's facing three-man pressure. He's getting the cleanest pocket there possibly could be. And you look at him and he's jumping around, he looks scary, where you're like, hey, you're not getting pressured at all.
Yeah.
Why are you just, and he made some good plays, but overall, it was not great. So I mean, I don't know. It's a tough question. I believe that both of those quarterbacks can be like they can be really
Replaced.
good.
Oh,
Yeah, they can be. Nah,
they
yeah, I
can be
get you. Nah,
replaced.
they can be replaced, but like they have,
That was
like they
funny.
have
He
those
was like, they
days
could be
where
good.
I mean, but once you don't know what you're gonna get with them, like
Yeah.
Minshew, like against the Browns, he can be really good,
Yeah.
making plays with his legs and carrying the load. Or
Mm.
he can be like against like what we saw against the Patriots, where he was like, you were like, hey, you're not getting nothing done with this guy in a quarterback. I think Baker's the same. I
Right.
give Baker perhaps a little bit more credit because Baker doesn't have the same running game that the Colts have behind them.
Right.
Like the Bucks can't run the ball at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall,
They're
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 just,
pre- they're pretty feast or famine.
yeah,
A lot of their scoring is going through their wide receivers, and if they're just not connecting, they're going to be punting a lot.
yeah,
And then like you said, if you're the Colts, it's just man, it's Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I need some more I need some more plays out of twins, twin backs.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but yeah, I think obviously the Colts in a good position here to get 3 wins in a row. Also, I'd noticed that after 3 losses in a row. Gosh, I just 39-38, 38-27, 37-20. That was a crazy slew, giving up almost 40 points a game. But scoring more than 20 all but well, the last couple weeks haven't been great.
yeah,
Well, no, 27 is really good. So, but yeah, 10-6 is oof. But that defense allowing 13 and 6 points in the last couple weeks gives me hope.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, they
and their
figure it
relative
sucks. Like,
health, right? Like
yeah,
it
and
appears like the
they are
defense.
getting Grover back after, I believe, the next couple of games. He should be back from the
So not, so
suspension.
not, so not this week.
Yeah, not this week, not the other, but I believe the one after that.
Yeah, I think the Colts are in an enviable position in that they can still win football games with their perfectly serviceable backup quarterback. And I'd argue because, like you said, I don't want to use Pro Football Focus metrics because I'm not a big believer.
Yeah,
But that information paired with the Colts, could very well be winning 3 games in a row here. Should they win Sunday? So the question is like, is Garner Minshew the best backup quarterback the
there
Colts have
is.
had?
Yeah,
Well, you could also say like in the league, right? Because like look at the drop off between some of these backups.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, when they say that there's less, they say there's less than 32 quarterbacks, less than 32 starting quarterbacks in the
yeah,
NFL. Um, the back, 8 or 9 guys in the NFL are completely replaceable. There
yeah,
are players that aren't playing in the NFL at all that are better quarterbacks than like the back 8 in the NFL. And this is true of almost every year. And that's actually kind of where I have Gardner Minshew, right? Is in that back quartile.
yeah,
Um, you always wish a guy like Sam Ellinger, who was a really good athlete and a hell of an offensive threat when he was in college, that just didn't translate to the NFL. I have the feeling that's mostly out of fear and confidence. and that it's impossible to teach someone to be fearless, right?
Yeah.
Like you either have it or you don't. Um, there's a reason that Anthony Richardson is had to get surgery and had to be put down for the year, because I actually think like he's so good, has so much potential that you got to can that
Yeah.
so you could build it up around him so that you have the weapons it takes to win when your quarterback is that capable. And obviously it started with a guy like Jonathan Taylor, right? Who for a while we thought for sure like Colts were going to slip up and let this all
Yeah. Let
world
this guy walk.
back
Yeah.
go. So fortunately they kept him, but I think part of that is seeing Anthony Richardson live. And part of that is Jonathan Taylor having to really evaluate, you go somewhere else, are you getting that level of threat from your quarterback to the point where it's holding up the entire backside of the play because they're afraid, what if Anthony Richardson pulls that ball? We're giving up another 10-yard run to him. And that's exactly what you see when Anthony Richardson's in a football game is it freezes up about half of the defense. But
Yeah.
but now one of the things that I've noticed with the Colts is the Colts have a lot of people overreading their plays, and that makes cutback good all day. And I know if I'm seeing it, watching it, they're seeing it when they're watching their film. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, cutback's open all day on everybody. They're over pursuing to play side because they think they've read it right. And just when you think you've started to get her beat on the Colts run game, it's when that, like I said, that cutback that um I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm just excited because I don't know about you, but I got like a lot of friends that are Colts fans that are dumb, and they
Hmm.
think like you have to be able to run the football to win football games. And I think the Colts have two starting running backs, and so I want like
Yeah.
100 yards out of two different players, right? I want home run balls out of two backs and make them have to defend it. Can you
Yeah.
imagine putting a team every down you could run this football and them not be able to stop that shit because it doesn't matter who we hand this thing to, who's back here, they're capable. Again, most teams in the NFL can't do that. They can't
Yeah.
present a second back that's as effective as the first. And while I would not say like Zach Moss is on Jonathan Taylor's level, like Zach Moss is just as capable.
Yeah. He's really good. Yeah.
Um, and so for that, that's my thing is the Colts run game could very well win them this game. It's not the Tampa run game that we're concerned
Yeah.
about. It's the Baker Mayfield connection with his receivers, which make up a big portion of their scoring offense. And again, I'd argue that passing the ball is how you beat the Colts.
Yeah.
Um, the Colts aren't going to give up uh, in the run game, especially against a weak rushing opponent, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, maybe down a couple guys, Jelani Woods on offense,
Yeah.
still waiting to get Grove back. Even being down a couple players, I'm still pretty confident Colts come out here with a winner record and
Yeah.
being 6-5 and looking ahead to the Titans, the Bengals without Joe
Yeah. Without
Burrow,
Joey B.
the Steelers, and I tell you, Kenny Pickett ain't his. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
He's not looking. Yeah. He's not looking
and
good at
then
all.
Atlanta, it's Atlanta. Uh, I think that's a winnable game against the Raiders and Texans. So realistically, and things have changed. I have changed. I was looking at these games like, man, the Colts could just lose every game in the rest of the season. And now, because of injuries, kind of the way things shake out, right? You don't even have to directly be involved. Things shake out and it changes your circumstances. Um, this remaining schedule is winnable. I don't know if it means you go to the playoffs or that you want to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, but it's certainly, like I said, there's been a noticeable change in body language for me, and what happens when we make a mistake. I feel like that's changed. I feel like Frank Reich, one of the things that I notice is the reaction from players when someone makes a mistake.
Yeah.
It's sort of damning. right? And I hate to use that. It's talking about a guy that's religious, but that's kind of what it feels like when you watch, to speak on Carolina, right? The Colts beat them a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah,
Carolina did not look good at all. Bryce Young did not look good at all.
at all. Yeah,
Um, and it makes me sad because I like Frank Reich, but like I said, the disconnect for me comes uh, when you don't fix your problems, right? Like
yeah,
when you're when you become notorious for starting slow in football games, hey, that's a problem. We have to fix that. We could change our practice habits to make us better earlier in a football game. You
yeah,
could you could work on that. That has a lot more to do with habits than it does with actual like X's and O's. You know what I mean? These are just
yeah. I get
you do things a little different way, you get a little different outcome. And for him to kind of be stick to your guns kind of guy, um, and to have achieved a little here, but be on the absolute flip side of that in Carolina, it spells disaster, right? Where I
you.
don't know if he gets to keep this job.
Yeah,
Um, and that
yeah.
and that
His
that's
reports
tough.
have already come out about him being, the hottest seat in the NFL right now. I guess just if you look at, I
Man.
took I did the job, tracing back. You can do now 17 the past 17 games.
Yeah,
Like he has 10 with Carolina and the last 7 with the Colts. And his offensive production in those 17 games has been the worst
worse in
17
the
game
NFL.
rolling. Yeah. Like worst in, I believe it's the past, they keep, you have data from, I believe it's 2012 or 2013. It's the worst 17 game period in the NFL, like the worst ever. And, he's been hailed as an offensive mastermind and a guy that can get offenses rolling. This is the
But that's the
worst.
problem is that he's got his Kool-Aid that he really likes,
Yeah.
right? And that's I'll tell you, I'm a offensive coordinator at a high school level. I intend to be an NFL head coach. Do you know what I do, brother? I watch scoring plays. I watch formation, motion, and shift, and I see what was the concept, what did the defense do? Oh, and this is why they scored. And I will draw it up, right? Like that's what I literally have play sheets. You can't really see it, but literally have play sheets left, right, and left, center, and right hash. Where what side of the field are they on? What quarter was it? Was it down and distance? This is what they called. And I try to think about, is that a whole new play for me, or is that another concept that I already have? A lot of it, for the record, for those wondering, this week it was the wheel. Everybody was beating people with the wheel. Why? Well, because for the first X games, they've been killing people with the out, with the slot running and out, or the tight end running and out, or the back slinking out of the backfield and running and out. And now teams are starting to play the flat out there on the fringe. And so now you've got what beats that the next week, right? And it's a week to week league. But that's Frank Reich's problem. Is Frank Reich is an offensive mastermind. He can really get, and he played quarterback at the NFL level, and he's coming in there with this
Yeah.
binder, brother. You know what I'm talking about? With this binder, right? This big. Oh, I can't even see it on my screen. This binder, right? It's like 5 pounds of paper, right? And for the record, you wonder why, if you really watched a game, every play someone makes a mistake. If you really watch a play, you literally break that thing down, you could tell that guy didn't know what was going on. And when you wonder why, I just had that down here, you can't really see it, but that playbook had I said it was a week to week league, right?
Hmm.
The playbook I have is 10 years old. So I'm sure they're not doing it at that level no more. I'm sure they've gotten simpler because that's stupid. But just for third downs in 1 week in 2013, Pep Hamilton's offense added 50 plays. 50 plays. Like I have the base playbook, and then I also have that week's game plan against St. Louis with
Hmm.
50 new plays. So I can already tell you I'm a firm believer in teach people as much shit as you can, and they'll be better off for that. Adding 50 third down plays between weeks in the NFL is too goddamn much.
Yeah.
That's too fucking much. And one of the big things that I noticed when I watch football is, like I've already said here, too many people don't know what they're doing. And it has to be a lot simpler. And like when you listen to someone call a play, like if you been paying attention to Kurt Bankert, the former Packers quarterback,
Yeah, yeah.
he's
Yeah,
gotten on
he's on
YouTube.
TikTok. Yeah.
He's a YouTuber and TikToker now. Well, he was playing a game of Madden, reading an old Kyle Shanahan play sheet, and I counted how many words did it take to make one play call, and who knows when that play sheet, Kyle Shanahan's probably like 5 years old, whenever they were together. Um, but he averaged like 11 words for a single
Yeah,
play,
that's
and you're like, what? I'm a high school football coach. I was an offensive coordinator. Do you know what I was saying to my quarterback? A number, run play one. And then he would look at his wristband, that's play one, and read the play to the huddle, which had formation, motion, or shift, what is happening, and a line call in 5 words or less, too. So
yeah.
we only ever got one delay a game penalty in my first 6 games as a high school football coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, blows my mind. Why would you want to do it any other way than have someone with a wristband? Have I at the end of the year, I figured out that I wanted my quarterback to tell me where the spot of the ball was, so that I could load a play faster in my brain, right? So yeah, when I hear, for example, like I just brought up, Kurt Bankert reading an old Kyle Shanahan play sheet, and you're like, holy shit, it took 40 seconds to call the play.
Yeah.
How did you get up to the line and run that? Especially when every play involves like motion or shift, and also like good teams use a lot of motion or shift. So one of the ways to see whether or not you've got a good or a bad football team, watch that Carolina game. They Carolina ran all their plays out of static. They have very little motion or shift unless it was jet motion or H motion, like the little back going back and forth. That's like it's like a sniffer, I think they call them,
Yeah.
the little sniffer motion. That's really all Carolina does. They weren't using the orbit motion or return motion or sneak motion. So it tells me Frank Reich loves his own Kool-Aid. He's in love with that shit, and he will ride or die with that shit, because he could probably go to the college level, or back to a high school level, and probably be great, right? But the
Yeah.
NFL, it requires constant innovation, and you have to stay ahead of the curve, the bleeding edge, right? Like, you have to be seeing what other people are doing and already have a counter for that, right? You got to be able to defend it and stop it. And then you got to think about what else they could do off it and defend that too. And then you have to integrate that into your offense. Because if you don't, that team is watching what you just put on wax, right? And that's
Yeah.
at the high school level too. We do film trade. It's like a niceties thing. You know what I mean? Oh, here's our film on Huddle. Oh, cool. Here's our link on Huddle. And you're like, you watch these teams, right? Like I said, I could talk about this shit forever. But when I think about what I bring, it's like I want to dumb it the fuck back down, right?
Hmm.
Where it doesn't take so long to get the play to the huddle or get your point across or tell people what you want them to do, right? Like one thing that always drives me crazy is like everybody plays Madden, right? So you
Yeah.
mean to tell me I can't say spread inside zone left, like shotgun spread inside zone left, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
how
get you.
how many words did that take? You you know what I mean? Like, and then when you watch games on Saturday or Thursday or whatever, and you see that, you're just like, man, is it really that hard? Especially when you get like a delay of game penalty, right? Because that meant somebody fucked up on the communication part of this. We didn't get the play called in time. It's still line and run it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm excited. Pacers are going to be fine, even though they just got their ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah,
Colts,
we are nowhere close hitting the panic button just yet on the Pacers. Nowhere
no,
close.
they're far too deep. They got too many people registering significant minutes to end up being like bad, right? Like a bad team can't win without starters, right? So the Pacers, even in that loss, like I said, I'm repeating myself, but like they played 14 people. And it's like, hey man, you can really win a lot of basketball games when you're willing to put like your entire team out on that floor.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of basketball teams that in college, high school, that they got 6, 7 people that will ever see the floor for them. You know what I mean? So that for those reasons, the Pacers are deep, and the Colts are resilient in the face of losing your, like I said, losing your star quarterback, losing your really, when I think
Yeah.
about Grover Stewart, really has been a workhorse for the Colts. Darius Leonard or Shaq, sorry, Shaq's not all the way back, right? Zaire Franklin missed the game, right? So not even at 100% strength. We've won 2 in a row, looking to win a third, and like I said, keep on winning because it's a realistic possibility. It's not like we have to suspend our disbelief to say the Colts could very well win out, which is absurd, right? I'm not saying they will. The overwhelming probability that you will not,
Yeah.
right? They may not play much in the way of quarterbacks, but they do have to play Mike Tomlin, right? So you could just lose that game because Mike Tomlin's a really good coach, right? But other than that, like I said, it has been, it feels like to me, brother, if I may, it's been a long time since I've felt any inkling of this for
Yeah.
either of these teams, where I'm like, Pacers are charting in an upward direction, and the Colts, they may be 5-5, but to me, it's like
Yeah. There. Yeah.
you're 5-5 with a backup quarterback. Like, I think the Colts are more real than the Browns and more real than the Jets. That and they're in
Yeah.
a same spot, right? And without Joey B, I think the Colts are better than the Bengals too, right? And so,
Yeah.
like I said, I get it. People are gonna like listen to these podcasts, like, man, you kind of change your tune, right? You wasn't really
Hmm.
much of a believer, right? And it's like, right, but when everybody else is falling down around you too, right? You keep as much of your team together as possible. You can win games just because you got bodies, right? And so that's what I'm like looking forward to. I'm hoping, I always love it when we're gonna record a podcast. I always look at like who's injured, and there's only one name for the Colts, and you're like, hey, that's actually really good for 10 games in, 500 ball club, everybody's healthy. Hey, I like the odds, right? Obviously, everybody's healthy,
Yeah.
but your fourth overall pick, star quarterback. But again, I don't think the Colts expected to be in this position. I think like the head coach and the football team are of a different mindset than maybe the rest of the organization. That's how I kind of find it. That's how I kind of see the Colts, where uh, the head coach will sort of inspire the players no matter what
Yeah.
happens, right? Like we can win. And like when you think back on this season, what would you rather be able to say? We lost our fourth overall pick, star quarterback, and it all went downhill from there. Or we lost our star quarterback, our backup stepped in, played admirably,
Yeah. And we had. Yeah.
and
And we
we
had
put
a
together a hell
like
of a
we were
stretch.
decent. We were a
We
tough
were a
team to beat.
decent football
We did
team.
not.
We were
No,
not
we
an
did not
easy
roll
out.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And teams did not want to play against us because they were like, hey, they have a solid running game. They have a good defense. They can very well, if their backup quarterback has a good game, they can complicate us. They can generate a lot of issues for us. So I'm really happy with how the season has been going, and I think that we can, like, we are in a position to take away a shit ton of positive stuff from this year.
Yeah.
Like, if we compare it, to last year where we were like, you remember when last year ended, we were like, hey, there is not a single good thing I can say about this football team. Like it all went to hell. Like the
Offensive line
offensive
looked
line
like
was
shit.
terrible.
Secondary was obviously
Jonathan
falling
Taylor did not
apart.
look great. Secondary was falling apart. We did not get any pass rush going. The young players were not looking all that well. We did not have many young players where you were like, hey, they are playing okay.
Yeah. Pierce
So
was a big question last year. I
yeah,
mean, he's still
and
a little
this year, yeah,
question
he's
this year,
still
but
a little question, but this year at least, we have Josh Downs who's playing his ass off. He looks like a real superstar, and you're like, hey, it's just his rookie season, so he should only get better. The only issue I have with the Colts right now, and the only thing that is really worrying me, is the state of play that how Shaq Leonard is playing.
yeah.
Like that's the only thing what I'm saying. Like, hey, I'm kind of worried about that, especially considering how he got paid. He's complaining. He's bitching about not getting playing time. And you look at EJ Speed and you look at Sire Franklin, and they're both playing their asses off, and they're both making a lot of plays, and they're playing
And they're
according
not
to what the
talking.
team is. They're not talking. And even,
He's out there
I
getting it.
think, yeah, an underrated part of these past couple of weeks has been, def linebacker Segun Olobi,
Mm-hmm.
who had, his first interception. He saw plenty of playing time when Zaire was out. I believe it was against the Panthers. You're like, hey, he played his ass off. He had a really good game. And again, those three, they are not bitching. And Shaq, if you're gonna complain, like if you're gonna bitch about your lack of playing time,
You
and
got to
you
be
go
putting
out,
out. You got to be putting up
yeah,
numbers.
and you go out and you play like you did against the Patriots, that was complete bullshit. Like he was missing tackles. He did not look connected into the game at all. Like he looked bad. He looked out of it. I mean, the Colts, I said it, in the staff Discord chat, the Colts have an out for Shaq Leonard contract after this season with only, I believe it was $8 million in that cap.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's a
hey,
cut.
considering, how, we can go point by point, like Thayer Franklin and AJ Speed are looking great.
Yeah.
Like they are both looking really well. Gus Bradley's scheme, you're like, hey, if you can't find like, and also for Chris Ballard, like, hey, it's already proven you can find productive linebackers. Sire Franklin, I believe, was a seventh round pick.
Yep.
EJ Speed was a fifth. You can
Mm-hmm.
find like really productive linebackers in those rounds. Why are you paying a linebacker that is complaining about the
And
lack
not
of playing time,
producing.
not producing, and he got paid. I mean, he got paid a shit ton of money. He's the second paid linebacker in the league.
I
He's
mean,
not making the
I
special. Yeah,
understand now he's paid and now he's got something worth protecting, right? His person, right? And now you see him out there surviving and you're thinking like, is that worth
yeah,
that massive
no, not at
contract?
all. Yeah.
I think I
So
just let him go. And I think part of him complaining is him realizing how he doesn't fit anymore and
yeah,
how your production doesn't match your paycheck. And the people around you, like I know that they're like brothers and they would never say that to each other, but like, how is Zaire Franklin not in Shaq's ear? Bro, you're getting paid $1 billion to play this game. You're playing like shit. Like, and we
yeah,
need you because we need your money power to be, you know what I mean? Like to show on the field that there's a reason they're paying you all that money. Right now, they ain't getting any value out of that, and they will cut your ass. They will trade your ass. You know what I mean? They'll get rid of you, whatever. I don't want to
yeah. Whatever
get too
happens. Yeah,
specifics, but like whatever happens, happens, right? And it's like you said, um, one of you can get good value in the later rounds,
yeah,
especially at the linebacker position, because a lot of it, I'm always worried. Like if you hang on to EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin, let go of Shaq, Shaq goes somewhere else and blows up, and then Zaire gets hurt or EJ gets hurt, and then you have one and a
yeah. You
half
look like a fool.
linebackers,
Yeah,
right? So or both get hurt, and you have a half a guy. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I'm wondering for that reason if the Colts just end up sticking it out. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's a
Like
worst case scenario, right?
I
Is
mean,
for people.
he's a good locker. I mean, at least before the bitching, like
Yeah,
the other guys seem to really like him. He
yeah.
does some good work in the community. Like he's always featured, in community notes and doing good stuff and charity for the
Mhm.
community. I think that will be a real test of leadership for Steichen, to get him to sit down and say, "Hey, you were the star linebacker 2 years ago. You were an All-Pro caliber linebacker.
Yeah.
This year you're playing like shit." And that's the objective truth. Like you look at the numbers, you look at the tape. You're not playing well. You're not generating turnovers. You're not making splash plays. You look slow in the run game. You look slow in covering the pass. You're not looking great. And we have, two young guys, Sire Franklin and EJ Speed, that are looking really well. So,
Yeah.
what do we do with you? Like you're constantly bitching to the media also puts us in a really bad position team wise.
Because we can't hide
So
your poor play if you're sticking your nose in front of a camera
yeah,
complaining. Now everybody's gonna go watch your tape and be like, Are
hey,
they
this guy's
have
not
to
playing
play
well.
him?
Yeah,
Like, I wonder if they've got somebody better. You know what I mean? It's like you said, you've got other linebackers that are stepping up and playing well. So yeah, that's like the Colts conundrum, right? Is obviously you're playing a backup quarterback, and then hey, the linebacker that is one of the highest paid linebackers in the league is not playing to his capability, is complaining in the media, is stressing your team, right? So it's
yeah,
always something to think about. So what do you say, brother? We've
yeah,
chatted for a good while here. It's been a few weeks. Life happened. I'll be straight up. I had a bunch of doctor's appointments, and keep in mind I'm in school full time. I work full time. I just got a new job,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
It happens.
obviously you
Yeah,
had
life gets
we
in
had
the way. Yeah,
elections here, we had elections there. So it's just been a lot going on for both of us. That was kind of uncharacteristic for us.
yeah,
During the NFL season, we've
yeah.
been
But
pretty good,
yeah,
been
it
pretty
happens.
consistent. Yeah. But
I think people would understand, that sometimes it just a run of bad luck, we can't get in the same page. It happens.
yeah, absolutely. Just part of life. Uh, but yeah, I'm absolutely happy to sit here with you as we go through the season and try to spin a positive on
Yeah,
what it's real easy to be negative, right? All the time and say Colts are on their last leg. They're not very good defensively and they're playing a backup quarterback. It's only a matter of time for the wheels fall off, right? But I actually think that's the strength of Shane Steichen is that he's able to get these
yeah,
guys to mesh and to understand like as many of us as are here, we should be able to win. We've got, 19 of 21 starters. That's a ton. There's a lot of teams are going to play that aren't, they're playing backups on the O line. They're, you know what I mean? They're not there at their best.
yeah,
And it just so happens like against the Bengals or against Bengals, the Bucks, for example, this week, the Bucks have a bunch of defensive players that are just coming back
yeah.
after a
Off
long
injured. Yeah,
layoff, after injury themselves. And that makes me think like, well, the Colts are going to come out and they're at least good on offense, right? There's like a good offense. So like offensively, they shouldn't struggle. This could very well be a blowout for the Colts, right? That's the kind of position the Colts are in. And if you really think about at the time of Anthony Richardson's injury, did you think that you'd be sitting
nah, yeah, no way at all.
more than halfway through the season after the bye week in a
Yeah, five and
with
five
the
in a
potential to
position.
win a game and have a winning record, right?
Yeah, that's
One
crazy.
week out of the
Yeah,
bye week. That's awesome. That's not a spot I thought we'd be in. Remember,
yeah,
we've talked about, and this is what makes it really funny. We'll stop after this. Uh, what's really funny is that remember how I've talked about the average team only really ever stands a chance to improve plus 4
yeah,
games from one year to the next. Um, they're already plus one, right? They've already won one more game than
yeah.
they did
You've
last
already,
year.
yeah, and you
And
look like you
so
could.
all you got to do is win like a less than half of your remaining games. And you
Yeah,
maxed out what a team will do to improve year to year. Hey, that's big expectations because and you got to think about it, other teams see this too, right? Like this could happen to any team where you lose your starting quarterback and your season is done.
yeah.
It
It's
could
yeah,
happen to any team. And now more than ever, I mean, this year, I remember 2018, there was a bunch of quarterbacks injured too. But anytime the quarterback is injured, that game is wide open. Anyone can win, right? So, like I said, when you look ahead a little bit, you're like, hey, who the Titans putting out at quarterback? The Bengals, right?
yeah,
By the time you get down to it, the next good quarterback the Colts play will be to close the season, and it's a battle with CJ Stroud, right?
yeah.
So if you're thinking about like, the Colts are only barely 500 and
That
it,
could,
it it
yeah,
isn't looking up. It's like, no, it's actually looking up for the Colts. And that's it. Hey, I love being in that spot. And part of the thing about Gardner Minshew, I wanted to make sure I said that part of the reason that he's dancing so much is because he has to keep himself alive, right?
yeah,
He's in a position where he can't afford to get injured, or it's like a big fall off between him and Ellinger, right?
yeah,
Um, so there's sort of a rhyme to the reason why like the Patriots only rushing 3 guys and he's dancing around there freaking out anyway. It's because he knows like I have to I have to hold this, and if I get hit, I get banged up, it's over for us. We ain't
Yeah, it's
winning
really
nothing.
yeah.
So I could see how a bye week can fix that. You could fix that mentality where, hey,
Yeah.
you're getting a
Real
little
yeah,
happy
he's looking
feet.
scared.
Yeah, because you're running scared, right? We can work on, we could, that's something you could fix.
Yeah, we can work with
That's
yeah,
a
it's
mental thing.
fixable.
And it's not us sitting here saying, like, I don't know if you saw the every third down play from the Steelers last week, or no, every third down, like a 19, something like that times, Steelers tried to throw to the sticks, and you
Yeah, it
watch
looked like
uh Kenny's ball, and you're just like, wow,
yeah, that's
that's a
really yeah.
problem that you can't fix, right? So the Colts problems here with Garner Minshew, and obviously winning a game 10-6 is tough, right? In the NFL, and there's only 16 points scored.
Yeah.
Um, but it speaks a lot more to like a mental issue, and those are things that can be fixed as opposed to like a mechanical issue
Yeah.
or a arm strength issue or trying to throw a football with gloves
Yeah,
on.
we're like, hey, you
Really?
can work in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, this has been again season 2, episode 8 of the Coltist. How about that bye week? So hey, everybody have a happy holidays. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you
Yeah,
before
we'll see
next
you
week's
next week.
game.